huge thanks to OK Jazzy. They're your go-to for the 2026 World Cup and an incredible retro archive. They got decades of iconic league classics, from legendary 90s designs to the rarest club heritage kits. Whether it's a high-performance player version or a timeless vintage look, prices start at just £15, 4.5 Trustpilot rating and fast shipping. Use code Chris for 8% off and grab your piece of football history now.
Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast. We're here to talk about Tottenham's trip this evening to the GTEC Community Stadium. Sadly, it's finished. Brentford 3, Tottenham Hotspur 0. Now, we're live on YouTube, Facebook and X. Please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling as a Spurs fan right now and let us know how you are feeling about that performance. Now, before I get into it, I just want to say Roberto De Zerbi has literally just come out and said to the media that he knew that Tottenham Hotspur were not ready for the start of the season after last weekend's friendly against Hoffenheim. He said, I knew after the Hoffenheim game, I said we are not in the right point. We are late for the start of the Premier League. As I mentioned, Tottenham Hotspur defeated 3-0 at the GTEC today. And let's be honest and frank about it, it could have been a lot more. Now, after one game, Tottenham Hotspur are bottom of the Premier League table. Now, the match facts and stats from today: overall possession, Brentford had 41.1% of the ball. Tottenham had 58.9%. XG, Brentford 3.96 to Tottenham's 0.47. Shots, Brentford had a staggering 26. Tottenham had 9. Shots on target, Brentford had 8. And Spurs had 4. We had to wait for our first shot on target until the second half. Now, total touches inside the opposition box, Brentford 40, Tottenham Hotspur 18. Goalkeeper saves, Brentford 4, Tottenham Hotspur 5. Aerial duels 1, Brentford 23, Spurs 13. Fouls committed, Brentford 17, Spurs 14. And corners, Brentford had 7 and Spurs had 3. Now, let's introduce all of the channel regulars. We've got Craig Dearman back with us. Craig, how are you?
I'm fine. 40 touches inside our box. I know we'll get into it, but that is unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah, I'm not. I was hoping for better things, Chris. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Also back with us is Josh Hughes. Josh, how are you?
Surviving. I thought I was going to come on and it was going to be a positive opening day, but anything but. And I'm looking forward to getting into it, dissecting it all. But great to be back on the channel. It's been a while, so yeah.
Great to have you here, Josh. And also back with us is Luke Holiday from Hotspur Stats. Luke, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me back on, Chris. And I was very excited to be back on today and looking forward to this game a lot. And it's funny how quickly that can make you feel the opposite, eh?
Absolutely. Craig, let's start the show with you this evening and let's get your thoughts on today's performance and the 3-0 defeat at the GTEC. As Luke said there, I don't think many of us expected that level of performance so poor today. I've just said on a video walking back to the car that I do have full faith and I have optimism about this season. And I do have full faith in Roberto De Zerbi. I just think that this game now, we need to learn from it very, very quickly. De Zerbi's just come out and said that, we weren't ready for the start of the Premier League campaign. We need to move on very, very quickly, learn from this very quickly, and start the season on Wednesday against Charlton in the Carabao Cup. And then, of course, we face Newcastle next weekend in the Premier League. But let's get your assessment of the game today.
Yeah, this comment here that says that, Craig, we look like a promoted team that hadn't spent a single bit on the squad. And I tend to agree, to be honest with you. It was, I come into this game like we all had in our chat group. We was all pretty excited for the season to get going, all coming into it with raised expectations. I think, to be honest, we weren't getting carried away thinking we were going to win the league or anything stupid like that. But, expecting better. You was just wanting to see something. But I think that Roberto De Zerbi is right. It's refreshing to see what he said in that we weren't ready for it. I think we could probably all see that from even though on the whole, if you're looking at results, which I never try to do on pre-season, there was just something missing, and that something missing was different things, in my opinion. There was our big players hadn't played many minutes, or some had not played at all. The World Cup obviously was a massive distraction. We never had the likes of Porro and a few of the others back till only recently. There's been a lot of changes at the club, 100%. And today, for me, the whole team and the game panned out that it looked like a load of players that hadn't even met each other, let alone played together. And the effort wasn't there, which is astounding. Brentford, I thought, were very good, but I think we made them look very good as well. Come back to that stat, 40 touches in our box. From the off, you can kind of see which way this game was going to go. There wasn't many passes strung together. We didn't have any. Tonali looked lost in the middle of the park. He wasn't getting the ball on a half turn, so he could do a bit of magic. And when he didn't have any runners in behind. The front line looked absolutely appalling today. Defence wasn't very good. Midfield wasn't very good. Goalkeeping errors from Kinski, pushing it back into dangerous areas which they scored from. It was there's an argument to say that we actually played better when we drew 0-0 with them on New Year's Day earlier this year, which is a horrible thing to say, but it's fact. We were terrible today, and I definitely got the same vibe or the same feeling as all those few games under Igor Tudor. It didn't look like anything had changed. I'm in no way saying that Roberto De Zerbi is not the right man. I think he's the right man, and I think he will get it right. Like you, Chris, I think he will get it right. We're going to need time. He's going to need time. We need strengthening in that forward area. If that didn't tell you that, then I don't know what else would. Couple of those forwards definitely need to go. They're just not good enough. We did have a few chances. I think Luke mentioned it in the chat. We did have a few chances. Mikey Moore had 3 very good opportunities. Didn't take them. So on the whole, to sum it up, it was it wasn't the best, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. I think that's what we all could see from today's game. There was a lot went wrong and a lot of work to do.
Josh, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts and opinions on today's performance and result.
Yeah, look, first of all, I will caveat this by saying we've signed, 6 players? And 2 more are coming in, Savinho and Marmoush, possibly 1 or 2 more beyond that. So to Craig's point of it felt like a team that hadn't played together or not even met each other, we kind of are at that point, especially with the World Cup being extended and pre-season starting late for a lot of players. I mean, there are players in our squad that haven't even had a kick yet. I mean, Van der Ven and Porro both not available. They haven't even had a minute of pre-season. So that's quite discouraging and probably justifies to an extent what De Zerbi was saying after the game about the team not being ready. It highlighted a lot of the same problems, though, which is when we don't have that first choice strongest 11, the level overall is not good enough. Nowhere near good enough. But we also have spent a lot of money. We've spent a hell of a lot of money, and we bought exclusively players from the Premier League. So for us to be bullied, a £100 million midfielder in Sandro Tonali, to be bullied in the way that he was by Sangare, who, by the way, what a player he is, on his first ever Premier League appearance just 2 years ago, he was playing in the Austrian Bundesliga. Then he got a move to Lens in France, and then look at him now. I mean, that was a ridiculous performance, but for an £100 million proven Premier League player to be dropping that kind of a performance is not helpful. And we did look better in the second half when Fernandes and Bentancur came on. The midfield was completely disjointed. I was especially peeved by Lucas Bergvall today, who spent, in my view, all summer crying about wanting first team minutes and wanting to potentially leave the club. And he gets his opportunity and was absolutely abysmal for that first goal. And I thought generally very poor today. Senesi and Van Hecke, Not impressed with either of them today. That was definitely the telltale sign of a centre-back pairing who have not really gelled or played together very much. I suppose what I'm trying to say throughout all of this, it was an abysmal performance in many, many ways. But on one hand, you can't expect things to gel overnight when you're changing that many players in the squad. And we've all asked for that level of change. But also there were some glaring problems that are still there from last season. Situations like Archie Gray playing at right back. I don't think any of us need to even say it to know that Archie Gray cannot play right back, is not a right back, and should not play right back. But unfortunately, now we've sold Jed Spence. Other than Porro, that's our only option, it seems. But the thing that was most alarming about today is all that money spent to avoid defeats like this, and they couldn't even get the basics right. And you read it out yourself, Chris. When you read the duels stats, that was the one I was waiting for. Absolutely dominated in the duels, dominated in the second balls, not playing, not able to seemingly play 5-yard passes, make the right decisions. And then, of course, when we get into good positions, not taking those chances. And, Mikey Moore, it was great that he had the opportunity to start. But again, I think he proved that, why he needs another loan and why he's not quite ready yet for to be starting week in, week out at this level. He had 3 opportunities, all 3 he did a really poor job with. So food for thought after that game, of course. I think we're naturally all disappointed, but it's got to turn around and fast. And, it's great that we're going to get some attacking players in, but my God, have we got to learn to defend.
So, Chris, I think you're on mute.
I was wondering what that pause was.
Luke, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's defeat.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what Josh just said, actually. And I do wonder how much we are still suffering from some of the ills of last season and even the season before that. I was just looking at the list of players that were not fit enough to start today or deemed not fit enough to start today. And so many of them are players that are still carrying over injuries that either caused them to miss most of, if not all, of last season, and even some of them dragging on from the season before. And it's quite I think it's really telling that, some of those players came on in the second half to try and change the game, but it was already gone by that point. I mean, lots of those players didn't play very many minutes in pre-season, so I'm not surprised to hear what you said about De Zerbi's press conference, where he says he doesn't think we were ready. I mean, I started to get this strange feeling during pre-season that we'd seen so few of our first 11 play together that I started to feel like either De Zerbi was avoiding playing them in pre-season because he, wasn't taking it seriously, felt it was a waste of time, and then was going to play them in the Premier League from day one, which we've just seen isn't true. Or there were, deeper problems with the fitness of the squad that De Zerbi's concerned about and doesn't want to start the season with more long-term injuries. So what we've ended up with is a team today, and I'm not going to claim to be clairvoyant, but the video I did this morning that you put out on the channel, Chris, I said I think we're going to have a weird 11 today. We're going to have players that are not going to be at the club in a couple of weeks' time. And what's that going to do to their mentality as well? If you're Richarlison, you start today, but you know that you've got Solanke at the club, and potentially Marmoush is coming in, maybe even possibly Gakpo later in the window if he was to come. So you're going to start falling down the pecking order when the fitness of the team increases as well. So psychologically for him, he didn't do himself any favours today, though, did he? Really? So
I think he should be fighting for his place, though, Luke, shouldn't he?
Yeah,
if he knows that, that's what you should be doing.
Well, I wonder if you get to the point where you think I'm going to be fourth choice, you think that's a lot of fight you'd have to put up, and but then why start him? I don't know. I guess it's that Solanke just wasn't fit enough to play for long enough. But yeah, I just feel like we're still haunted slightly from the things that really caused us a lot of issues last year. We've still got clear fitness problems, and seeing an 11 like that is disappointing. When you see 4 under-21s playing, you think, they are all players with talent, but Mikey Moore today didn't take his chances. Bergvall kept giving the ball away. Archie Gray struggled at right back. It's not his key position. And Tell, I thought Tell did well at points, but again, I wonder if a more experienced player would have done slightly better. I mean, I thought they were linking up quite nicely on the left at one point with him and Robertson. It started to click towards the end of the I think it was sort of middle of the second half. But yeah, disappointing more in the manner, really. I think there's two sides to it. I think one is that those players could have done a lot better there today. Even if they'd have been beaten, I think the manner of that defeat was horrific. And Josh, you said it, and I completely agree. I thought the exact same thing. I think it was the first or the second goal, where Van Hecke and Senesi clearly had not spoken to each other, and nobody picked up Sangare in the middle of the box, and he just had a tap in. It's like they were trying to play offside 5 feet from the goal line. It was just bizarre. So yeah, communication not really there. They've played one game together. So yeah, I didn't think it was going to go well, but I really didn't think it was going to go quite that badly, to sum it up.
Yeah, it was certainly a disjointed performance, and I think during that 90-minute game, I wrote down a lot about each player with misplaced passes and terrible individual performances actually, and particularly with some people making their debuts in the Tottenham Hotspur shirt as well. Craig, what will be going through Roberto De Zerbi's head this evening after that performance, after this level of performance? And let me also just add, there were a few boos from the away end at half-time, and there were a few boos again at full-time today. Some people weren't happy. I think a lot of people expected a lot more, particularly after, I know the media, I've seen a few headlines after today's performance. They're saying big money spenders Tottenham, have failed to deliver today. But what will be going through Roberto De Zerbi's head this evening?
Yeah, I think we're going to be bantered again, as we always are. It sounds like he knew that we weren't in the right place, but I think, as Luke said, I guarantee that De Zerbi probably didn't think it was going to go as spectacularly wrong as it did today, and I think that will be the overriding thing. He'll realise there's so many problems still, and still so much work to do as the season goes along. People would say, "Oh, it's only the first game, blah blah blah." Well, it's 3 points dropped. We're already 3 points behind Arsenal, and you want to be getting off to a fast start. I know a lot of people have said, a few people in the group have said, Roberto De Zerbi tends to start slowly. I doubt very much he's ever had such a bad performance on his sort of opening day of the season as he had today with Tottenham.
But we know, Craig, it's not going to be perfect. We know that there is a lot of things to fix. We know that there are more players to come in the next 10 days. I don't get the criticism for Roberto De Zerbi today. Let me try and make me understand that level of criticism for De Zerbi today from fans.
No, I think some fans really need to wind it in a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, De Zerbi's not blameless today at all. Certain team selections, you could argue, and we don't know the full fitness of players. The physical state they're in. Could Maddison have played a few more minutes? Could Solanke have started and come off? So we don't know all this. We genuinely don't know. But what I'm getting at is I doubt even De Zerbi thought it was going to go as badly wrong today. And so he's going to be very unhappy with that performance. It does go to show, I think Josh said, and I totally agree, our first 11 on paper anyway, and we're nowhere near seeing it yet, but our first 11 does look strong. But that defence today, I mean, as that defence has never played together, obviously, because you've got the new recruits in there, the 3 new boys and Archie Gray playing right back. And as we said, he's not a right back. I don't blame Archie Gray for that. He was just put in there. The whole game today just seemed completely out of kilter, out of sorts. We didn't get going. We didn't We didn't lay a glove on them. Let's be honest, really, till the second half, and that's the frustrating thing, isn't it? That's what De Zerbi will be thinking about tonight. He said, "How have we been bullied by Brentford?" And Brentford are a pretty settled side. Yes, we know that. Yes, they're decent enough at home, but I just expected us to put up a bit more of a fight, and that's probably what the fans were frustrated about today, Chris. I think.
Craig, let me stay with you because I want to talk a little bit about the starting 11 today. Kinski, Gray, Van Hecke, Senesi, Robertson, Tonali, Bergval, Moore, Gallagher, Tell and Richarlison up top. Subs today, Bentancur, Danso, Davis, Dubravka, Fernandez, Maddison, Solanke, Udogie and Williams-Barnett. I must say, it looks a very, very strong bench today. Now, 4 players making their debuts today, Senesi, Van Hecke, Robertson and Tonali. And of course, Archie Gray was named captain yet again. Archie Gray becomes the youngest player to captain Spurs in a competitive game in our history, aged just 20 years and 163 days. And he overtakes the record set by Steve Perryman, 20 years, 260 days. Craig, first of all, what did you make of the starting 11? What did you make of the performances of the 4 debutants? And how nice was it for you to see Archie Gray given the captain's armband?
Well, firstly, I thought it was great that Archie's been put on that leadership team and given the armband today. It was really good to see. It just goes to show, doesn't it, how highly managers and Roberto De Zerbi is just the latest one. They rate Archie Gray. I know he comes in for a little bit of criticism, but we don't see him day in, day out. I've always liked Archie Gray. I don't think he's a right back, mind you, and I think it might be halting his progress playing him there. But really good to see him get the captaincy. Really interesting you say about the 4 debutants coming in today and starting. I remember the last time we played Brentford on the opening day of the season at the GTEC, I think we had 3 new starters. It may well have been 4. I know we had Van der Ven, Udogie, I think Maddison as well on their debuts, and we performed much, much better that day under Ange, of course. I know it was a 2-2 draw. But today, those starters didn't really do themselves much justice today. I would say out of the 4, Robertson probably had the best game. I thought he put in a couple of really good crosses. Wasn't really impressed with Senesi or Van Hecke. And Tonali didn't really get on the ball and get to do what we all know he can do. So the starting 11, when I saw it, I was a bit concerned. Actually, that front line looked so weak. What else could he have done? Well, could he have started Solanke? Could he have started? I don't know. He was kind of limited for options, I suppose, up front. But it just goes to show again, doesn't it, just how light we are. I think we got better when Bentancur came on. Maddison didn't really do tons when he came on. Bergval didn't have a brilliant game. So there's so much that's wrong. I think, like I said at the start, I really didn't want to be negative today, but when you watch a performance like that, it's really difficult to pick out any positives. If I have to pick out a positive, like I say, I think Robertson did. He didn't have a terrible game. I didn't think he was good going forward, and he put in a couple of really good balls. So he's just got to improve very quickly.
Josh, what did you make of the starting 11 today?
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of criticism for this starting 11 from a lot of people, but clearly that was the 11 that was fittest to play. I think, of course, we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, and we don't know what's going on with the medical team overhaul and, you know, how operations are changing in that regard. But it very much felt throughout pre-season that a cautious approach was being taken to the fitness of certain players. And I think ultimately, long term, that's the right decision, because what use would it have been Solanke or Maddison starting today if they're not 100% fit and one of them goes down and aggravates the existing injury when they're just trying to recover from it? So I think I understand that team selection. The only decision that really, you know, I'm not pleased with was Fernandez not starting. You know, I think it's fair to say that Fernandez and Tonali, you know, we fully expect to form a partnership in that midfield. So it would have been nice to see them do that. But at the same time, you know, look at that spine. That's, you've got Robertson, Senesi, Van Heck, Tonali all kind of playing close together there. That, to have if you were to have 4 debutants in that midfield and defence in that opening game, especially when people have had mixed amounts of minutes and whatnot, I don't know how it would have gone differently. I would have trusted Fernandes in that case over Bergvall. The lineup is kind of what it is. I'm more disappointed with how players conducted themselves, and it felt like the game was lost within the first 15 minutes because the heads dropped. And people can say, and people might disagree with me, and that's absolutely fine. That's the nature of football. But Archie Gray should never be in the leadership team for me. He should never be wearing the armband at 20 years old, in my opinion. I am a big fan of Archie Gray's attitude. He works hard, but you should be leading by example on the pitch, in my opinion. And Archie Gray was incredibly poor today, and he has been incredibly hit and miss throughout his time playing for Spurs, in my opinion. And it's great that, De Zerbi sees so much in him and has a lot of faith in him, and fair play to Gray. He didn't play a lot in that final sort of stretch of games when De Zerbi came in. He got his head down, and that's great. But you've got a player like Andy Robertson there, who has worn the armband for Liverpool, I believe, a few times, is very, very experienced and has played at the very highest level, who doesn't even make that leadership team. And when the heads dropped, I'm looking at the captain and wanting them to be geeing players up and getting a tune out of his teammates. And I didn't see that today. I thought that actually Archie Gray was quite a shell of himself at right back. And of course, yes, that's a tactical decision and part of where we're at with only one right back at the moment. But that's not really what I want to see. That's not leading by example. And that's not me trying to slander Archie Gray. I think he's got masses of potential, and there's no doubt that one day he could become a captain. But for me, it was great that he had that opportunity in pre-season, but that wasn't a leader's performance today, and it wasn't a leader's performance by any of those players really, except for arguably Robertson, who I didn't think had an amazing game, but he was certainly the best of the 4 by some distance. But it's so clear that starting 11 we had today is not going to be the starting 11 in weeks to come. It's definitely not going to be. But you would expect that De Zerbi has drilled enough into them during pre-season to not come out and play like that, because to be honest, it was 100% rubbish. 100% rubbish, top to bottom. And I said this earlier in answer to the first question about the performance, and rightly there are concerns about what we're doing in the final third and where are the goals going to come from. But we couldn't defend to save our lives today. We couldn't control the midfield to save our lives today. There was not a single area of the pitch that we were better than Brentford at today. And that was incredibly alarming. And Newcastle's going to be a test. Remember, we've not beat Newcastle since 2023. That's coming up next. And we've got to see such a rapid turnaround from these players.
Luke, do you want to add anything about the starting 11?
Yeah, I just think that I think De Zerbi would have picked a team that he thought could have done something today. I don't think he would have picked a side that he thought couldn't win. And that I think quite a few of those players, certainly with their performances, let him down today. There was quite a bit of that across the pitch. It's interesting for him to say that he didn't think they were ready. So the questions I think that we probably all have is that, were those the 11 players he thought were the most ready? Were they the 11 players that he thought were the most fit? Or is there a difference between those two things or not? Like, is it about readiness in terms of just sharpness, or is it actually about fitness? And then maybe was that some sort of admission to say, I actually didn't think that team could win today, which is bizarre, really, because if you're in a position where you think you're putting out an 11 that can't win, I think you've made a mistake there. So, but no, I think he must have thought those players would have done better. I certainly would have thought they would have done better than that. So, but yeah, I just feel whenever you put too many young players on the pitch. I really feel, I said this so many times last year, that other clubs that are finishing in the top part of the table are giving fewer minutes to under 21s, unless they are like Fernandes, and they seem to be an exceptional talent, and they've been central to a team for 1 or 2 seasons, then those players should be getting their minutes later in games that maybe we're more comfortable in. They should be coming on and sort of finding their place a little bit more, rather than being, put into positions they don't want to play in, and having to deal with quite stressful situations because they will struggle to deal with it because they lack experience. And despite the money we've spent, I think it just shows us how far behind we were, because we didn't have options to come on today and show a little bit more experience collectively. And that's why I think obviously he brought on Bentancur, because I'm not his biggest fan in the world, but he's certainly a calmer, more experienced head than Bergvall was. And he made an error for the penalty, but he still was a bit more in control in midfield, and tried to calm it down a little bit. And when you see that missing, if you've got a team like Brentford, who they came at us today, they really did. I thought they were brilliant, and yeah, we just looked like rabbit in headlights at points. So it's a funny one. It's hard to know what to think of it, but I certainly think quite a few of those players let the manager down today. But conversely, I also don't think those are the players that he really wants to see on the pitch. So it's a bit of it's a bit of a confusing situation, really.
Craig, before we get into the match incidents, I just want to get your opinion on Sandro Tonali and his performance today. Of course, £100 million package from Newcastle United. This is a signing that we all wanted to happen. This is a signing that we were all very, very excited about. I thought that it was a pretty grim performance, especially on his debut today. I did notice, for quite a number of occasions today, that he was screaming for the ball. You could actually hear him screaming for the ball, from his teammates. And, quite a few times they didn't actually pass the ball to him, which I found a little bit strange, because he was in ample space to make a difference. But when he did have the ball, I'll be honest, I didn't think it was a good performance today.
No, I agree. Totally agree. He will be disappointed with his debut. I do wonder whether he's the sort of player that needs players around him to shine. And like you say, he wasn't just getting the ball in the areas that he wanted it, and in the areas that he could do damage. He will be disappointed with that. No question about it. I'm not going to get too down on it. There'll be brighter days to come. It's just a shame that every single player almost had an off day today, and we've seen that far too often with Tottenham over the last year or so. And I think that's the key for me. You can afford to have one player have an off game, but when it's almost the whole team and there's nobody in there, I totally get what Josh is saying actually about Archie Gray being captain. If you say what you want about whether you believe that a captain actually makes a difference, but you do need somebody that is a leader. And we all know that Son was a different type of leader to perhaps a Roy Keane type of leader, where they're shouting at the players, organising people. I didn't see much organisation going on from anybody today, and I don't think you're going to get that from the likes of Archie Gray, concentrating on his own game. I think he's putting too much pressure on the lad as well at such a young age. So I don't actually understand why they did it. Like I said at the beginning, I thought it's good for him. It's good for him totally to be captain, but I just think at his stage of the career, it would have made sense to give the captaincy today to somebody like an Andy Robertson, because they've been there, done it. It's just putting too much pressure on him. But coming back to Tonali, not a brilliant performance. Like I say, I'm not going to get too down on it. I expect more from him. We will see more from him. And let's hope that some of those injured players get back to full fitness and can start in pretty short order, because, wow, do we need them.
Right, before we get into the match instance, we're going to hear now from Roberto De Zerbi. This is about a 10-minute press conference. So this is what he had to say after today's 3-0 defeat at the GTEC?
You never managed to get kind of control of the game? Was it fitness, not fighting hard enough, or too many new players?
For many reasons. I think we are not team yet. For a lot of reasons. Yesterday in press conference, when you asked me what is the target, we can fix the target when you become team. Before then become team, we can't say what we can do. For sure, we are not in the right point in physical condition for a lot of reasons. For the players, they came late after World Cup because in Australia we couldn't work in the right way for the trip, to don't take risk for the a lot of things, but are not excuse, are the normal situation when you are building a new project, a new process. I don't want time, but we have to pass through these problems. I couldn't lose confidence in my players. I believe in my players, I believe in my club, I believe in myself. I think we are working well, but in this moment, and I knew after Hoffenheim game, after Hoffenheim game, I said we are not in the right point. We are late for the start of the Premier League, but is a step. We have to improve quickly. Anyway, we could fight stronger than we did today. We lost too many duels. We made too many mistakes in the timing when we wanted push the pressure higher. We arrived second on the second ball. We didn't win one second ball, one duels, one tackle, and it's tough. But if you analyze everything, you can find that we played with 2007, 2006, Lucas Bergwall, the second goal. I think he didn't play bad today. Even I substituted in the half time. But Lucas Bergwall, in the next 2 years, he will not lose that ball in that moment of the game. But there are steps to become better. Now the focus and the target is to become team. And then, because team, you can't become team for the transfer market window, for the players, the new players, the player of the paper, no. You become players, you become teams with the players. They find the connection between them, they find the spirit, they find the soul, what I said yesterday, and it's a process.
You mentioned the age of some of those players, like Mikey Moore and Ted as well. Did that show today you do need more experience up front in the attacking area?
No, for the attack area. For Archie Gray, the same, was shine today, no? Like Lucas, many new players, maybe they have to find the connection. Sandro, Tonali, Senesi and Van Eyck. But I think I don't change idea. I think we are working well as a club, as a project. We need the time, like the big teams they have done in the last 10 years. Tom.
So obviously it's going to take a while for your players to gel, but given how the team fared towards the end of last season, I think a lot of fans will be shocked by that defeat. Were you shocked? Were you surprised?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm suffering for this defeat, but or we distract everything, or we are working if you analyze last season, defensive line, Porro, Danso, Mickey van de Ven, and Udoge. And today, Archie Gray, JP Van Eke, Senesi, and Robertson. 4 new players. 2 midfielder, Rodrigo, Betancourt, and Palinha. Today, 2 midfielder, Berval. Why not Betancourt? Because he came late in the pre-season. In the pre-season, we work with Lucas Berval. I think at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of the new project, was good and was right to give to play with Lucas Berval. But I knew before the game, Lucas Berval in this type of game, maybe he could suffer more than Rodrigo Betancourt, 30 years old, and Lucas 20. I knew before the game, but at the end you have to think. We go and we try to build something good for the club. We need also Archie Gray, we need also Lucas Berval, or we work for today and tomorrow, I don't know. For today, I agree. For the plan, for the project, what the club want and what we are in the direction we are working, I think is the normal process. Even we are suffering for defeat and we are shocking for this defeat, especially for the way we lost the game, because they deserve to win and we play very, very bad.
Tom.
Roberto, you talked yesterday about keeping the balance in terms of excitement levels after what's happened this summer. Did this match even be quite useful in that regard for the players to kind of keep their feet on the ground?
Di tenere, hai parlato ieri in conferenza, di tenere una forma di essere bilanciati, no? Di tenere l'entusiasmo per quello che sta all'esterno.
Yes, but before this game yesterday, I told you when you asked me about the target, about the happiness for this transfer market window, I said, first of all, we have to fight to become team. And to become team, in my home, there are 2 biggest conditions: the soul and the style of play. And today, we didn't show the soul and we didn't show the quality of the play, with the ball and without the ball. When we find these 2 conditions, I think we can become dangerous for everyone, every team. Until we can't, I feel until we don't arrive, we don't reach these conditions, we have to suffer. And today, I think is important for us, this defeat, because maybe we woke up stronger than we thought, maybe.
Roberto, Archie Gray, youngest ever Spurs captain. Could you provide insight into the role he would play this season, especially with Dead Spence leaving?
Capitano più giovane nella storia del club, Archie Gray, quale ruolo avrà in questa stagione?
Archie Gray can play. Archie Gray can play as a fullback, as a midfielder. But I think is much better than his performance today, but not just Archie Gray, also JP Van Eke, Sandro Tonali, Richarlison, everyone. We didn't play a good game.
Okay, fine.
But we can't change idea on Archie Gray for today, or for Richarlison or Matistel.
How long do you expect for you to kind of find everything? You expect it to come before the international break? You expect it before next week against Newcastle?
We need time, but to put. I think we are much better than we show today. So from Wednesday we can show our qualities and we can show who we are. But anyway, even if we win Wednesday or next Saturday, we need time to become team. Because to become team, we need time. We need time, we have to analyze the situation, we have to understand the situation, the improvement we have to do, every one of us, because we lose and we win together.
And last season, obviously, Tottenham were very strong from set pieces, but losing Romero and Cowlin to the kind of big set piece players for Tottenham last season. How are you kind of trying to refocus that?
Listen, Brentford in set pieces are maybe the best team in Premier League. So it's normal suffer. I think we suffer more the duels, more the second ball than the set pieces.
Thank you.
Josh, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on Roberto De Zerbi's comments there in the post-match presser.
Well, I think De Zerbi seems to have the same view that I think all of us have on the podcast tonight. I think a lot of what he said made total sense, and it was very refreshing to hear how honest he was. He talked very, very openly about the debutants not playing very well. He spoke very openly about Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall both suffering in that performance, and I think he justified things quite well too. And as I said, the second ball and the duels was the biggest concerning point for me, because it doesn't matter whether you're playing in the playground or whether you're playing in the Premier League. At any level of football, if you do not win your second balls, the duels, and get those basics right, you're never going to win. So it was good that he saw that, and he seemed very, very hungry in looking forward to that Charlton game midweek, which is going to be a great opportunity, but also in a way almost like a pre-season game for some of those players that haven't had the minutes. And he's right in pointing out that players were late in coming back, and the extended World Cup didn't help. And I think perhaps he may look at next season and want to start his pre-season just that little bit earlier for the group that weren't at the World Cup. But he is right in the sense that it is going to take time for these players to gel. And these players probably aren't quite as bad as the performance showed today. But everything was lacking, top to bottom. The whole thing, everything was lacking today. And I think now, I think that the quote that stuck with me from the presser was him saying, with the help of his translator, that I think today we woke up a lot more than the performance sort of showed. So I think that can only be taken as a positive, really, as a small silver lining to what was a very, very grim day for De Zerbi, for the players, and all of us as fans. That, hopefully this does serve as a stark reminder of how high this level is, how good you have to be, and that if you don't get the basics right, you're never going to win at any level. So hopefully that comes forward. The players that we want to see get the minutes, people come back into fitness. And I would like to see us completely dismantle Charlton midweek. And I would like to see us also put in a very, very good performance at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday too.
Luke, Roberto is a very honest manager, isn't he?
Yeah, I was particularly interested with the thing he said about Bergvall. And I think there's sort of two ways you can interpret it, where he said the way he lost the ball for the second goal, he won't do that again in 2 years. And I was wondering if he meant he's learned his lesson and he'll improve, or did he mean it's so unlikely that that would happen? You could wait another 2 years and you still wouldn't see him do it. And there's very different outcomes to those two things depending on what he really meant. I think he might have been saying, Lucas will learn from it and improve. I think he's right, but Yeah, I think he was trying not, even though he did name a couple of the players, he didn't specifically call them out really, and I think he was trying to temper his own frustrations. But he knows that as I said earlier, the team, and it was very clear in what he was saying there, that's not the team he really wants to put out every week. It's not the 11 he wants to play. He doesn't want to be playing youngsters in those positions. He wants, these big signings we're supposed to be pulling in, and you can see those two chances that Mikey Moore got today. We were saying it in our group chat earlier that if there'd been another player on the end of those, they probably would have tucked both of them away. It's 3-2, and you're talking about a very different game. So, yeah, I mean, somebody pointed out to me that last week, I think Brentford, I'm not sure who they were playing. I don't know if it was a Bundesliga team or someone.
Frankfurt.
They won who was it?
Frankfurt, 7-0.
7-0 they won. And I mean, yeah, we've all gone over it, but he said, our pre-season, and I saw someone say in the comments, and I agree, it felt like a sly dig at the Aussie tour, like he wasn't really too keen on that maybe. I think a few people had mentioned that he'd commented on how bad the jet lag was, and I mean, you could speak more to that, Chris, but I think it's not ideal, is it, when you've got so little time to prepare? You're bringing a lot of players in and they're exhausted, and I think there's something to be said for these teams that go and do their tours in Europe. And I know that we do it because we're trying to go overseas and expand the product of the business and all the rest of it, and try and do that side of it. But it's not good for the athletes. It's not good for preparation for the start of the year. And it's almost better to do what we did a couple of years ago, even though it seemed bonkers, which was the post-season tour to Australia. That almost seems like a better idea than doing it with so little time before you come back. It's been a few weeks, but yeah, almost a week written off to jet lag is not great, is it, really?
Luke, talking about Spurs going forward today, it took, I think, until the 50th minute before we had a shot on target. What did you make of Tottenham's attacking play today? Because, as you guys have already mentioned, Mikey Moore had 3 chances. Should have scored one of them, at least in my opinion. But, there were chances also for the likes of Tell. Tonali had a shot on target, which was quite a soft one. We did try a few long-range shots as well. They went over the bar. It wasn't creative enough, in my opinion, and we do need that killer, number 9 in there, and we need players also to create opportunities. Savinho apparently has now completed his medical at Hotspur away. This is now awaiting official confirmation from the football club, and Spurs have agreed personal terms with Omar Mamouche. Now, if these two walk straight into Tottenham's starting 11, how does that change things for you?
I think it massively changes it, because if you look at it today, I mean, what you could see the team were trying to do, and we saw this in pre-season, is this kind of like really fast vertical line passing, cutting through sort of one bank of players of the opposition, but then they seem to pass it back to another player who will then find space from a run of the player who's just laid it off. So they're sort of trying to very quickly move the ball backwards and forwards to move the opposition out of shape. And it only started clicking in the second half. In the first half, what we saw was Tell and Richarlison receive the ball with their back to the defender. And you never know. It's difficult to see on the telly, particularly if there's no replay, but Richarlison just doesn't seem to be able to hold off the defender ever, nor does he seem to be able to take a touch where he gets fully under control of the ball. He seems to fall over it or make a pass that goes too short. Tell was doing a bit of that as well. We saw Mikey Moore doing a bit of that. There was sort of like a miscommunication between Tonali and Gallagher at points where they were not quite getting in a position to be able to lay it off to each other, and the ball was being intercepted. And we were also being outplayed by a Brentford team who were running a lot more than we were. They seemed a lot fitter. I think you put Savinho and Marmouche in there. I think it's going to take maybe a little while for them to get right up to speed. But I just feel like those players have that explosiveness that will make a difference. They'll be able to receive the ball, lay it off, make a run really fast. They've got the experience to be able to finish better. They've got the experience to be able to whip in across when there's that sort of space. I mean, we saw Robertson was the one, I think, that got that ball to Moore for his first chance. And I think he was the one that got it to him again, maybe for the second one, or was it a little 1-2 on the edge of the box? But I just think a more experienced player in that position puts that away. And that's what these two coming in are supposed to be. They're supposed to really sort of change that for us. If those kind of attacking patterns of play are successful with more experienced players, it should lead to goals. It sounds very simple, but it should increase our ability to score. I mean, I was quite shocked to see the XG afterwards, because I would have thought those two Mikey Moore chances would have generated a little bit more XG from that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there was too many people in the box. But there was a moment later on where there was a really nice combination up the left hand side with I think it was Tell and Robertson. And Robertson got right into the box and tried to do a cutback, and it sort of pinged around between players and didn't really get anywhere. I think people who are fitter, a bit more experienced, bit more technical ability and skill will really improve the team, and I think those two will do that. And there's been so much talk about Savinho and his numbers, but don't forget there's plenty of players who come into clubs with amazing numbers and then never reproduce them. It goes both ways. So if the manager is convinced that he can get something out of him, then I think we need to sort of trust that process, and hopefully we'll start seeing it pay dividends soon.
Craig, obviously we lost, today and lost well against a Brentford side who I thought were actually really decent. These Brentford fans today were really up for this game. They were very confident going into this game against Spurs. And as Luke and Josh have already mentioned, they last beat, the last time out, they beat Frankfurt 7-0 in a friendly. And what I understand, it could have been 10 or 12. They play super football. And we were up against a good side today, and I know I'm not using that as an excuse saying that we've only lost because we played a decent side, but they played well.
They did, and you can't take anything away from it. There was always a threat, even with their long throws. They're always going to cause any team problems, especially at home. They look like a team that was settled, Chris, to be honest with you. And that new signing, I can't remember his name, Josh mentioned him. What a player he looks. Coyote. Is it Coyote, Josh? What's the name of the new?
No, it's Mamadou Sangare.
I know Coyote, I do like him as a player as well. They just look like a settled side, and we looked anything but a settled side. I think there's a lot to be said for what we've already covered off, in that this, looked like a team of players that hadn't played together, but essentially that's exactly what it was, a team of players that hasn't played together, as Josh said. So, look, we're just going to have to suck it up and hope for a better performance at home against or two home games coming up now against Charlton, West Ham today, of course, and Newcastle. So, we've got to. I know people say, and I've said it before, that he starts slowly. We can't afford this. If we want to push on for those European places, we've got to get points on the board early. Is it just a blip? Let's all hope it is, but there is a hell of a lot of work to do. And I just hope that we can get, as I say, players back from injury, get in these new signings, and because that front line definitely needs a shake-up. It's such a shame that Kulusevski and Kudus aren't fit still. Maddison obviously still carrying the niggle. I think it will be different. It has to be different when we get those players back, and when we get these new players in. You're going to see a different Tottenham. But today was just pretty dire, and I don't want to see that again this season.
Craig, let's stay with you. Let's go straight in where Brentford took the lead after 1-0, finished off by Lewis Potter. Talk us through this goal.
Yeah, pretty shaky defending all round. Nice little 1-2 played around. Can't see who that is. It must be Bergvall, actually. Not just nice play from Brentford as we go through this move. Spurs, I mean, they don't look particularly bad there, as the line's pretty good, but allowing the play through like that running off defenders very static, and just had a world of space to put it into, and just slots home. So a pretty easy goal for Brentford. We made it easy for them. The defending wasn't particularly brilliant. Nobody covered themselves in glory there, and Brentford, to be honest, deservedly 1-0 up. And it could have been. That's the frightening thing about today, is it could have been more. We were lucky that the score was kept down, to be honest with you. And obviously they missed a penalty, which we'll come on to. But yeah, it could have been worse, and I suppose that's a positive, that it could have been a lot worse.
Josh, what did you make of our defending, particularly for this goal?
Shocking, just shocking. Top to bottom. Look, I know you can't sort of rewind back, but one thing that was really noticeable was how high their centre halves were. Brentford centre halves. They trusted their press, and they completely squeezed us in. And once you get to the point where Bergvall basically just gets done, notice who our players are marking and picking up. They're in a line, not quite a straight line, but they're in a bit of a line. But from that point, when the 1-2 is played, every single player lost their man. And the ball gets played, cut back into the box. Absolutely no one marking Lewis Potter. And it's a simple enough finish for him. And, this is someone that's been playing, predominantly left back, picking up that position as well. So the whole thing was just, we were too slow to the ball. We were just, it was like, it was like a deer in the headlights. It was absolutely second class from us, nowhere near it, and kind of just stank of not being at the required level, both physically and mentally.
Luke, let's come to you. Let's talk about Brentford's second goal after 33 minutes, because I think it's also worth saying as well that when Brentford went 1-0 up, it was definitely coming. They were creating chance after chance after chance, but they eventually went 2-0 up after 33 minutes.
Yeah. Again, it was pretty slack positionally. Was this? I can't have forgotten now. Was it Sangare that scored the second one?
Jan.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, I mean, this was the thing about this one. Again, this is why Bergwall was taking a lot of flack, because he tried to do a little step over. This is what I was mentioning earlier about De Zerbi calling that particular thing out. He tried to sort of roll the ball, didn't he, to the side of the defender, got intercepted. I did think at the time that whenever you see a player in the Premier League approaching the edge of the box, if they've got enough defenders in front of them to not want to really take them on, they're going to shoot. So someone needs to close them down. And I just thought that of the three players there, nobody reacted quick enough, but Janelt moved fast enough for the shot. And maybe I'm being a bit negative. I do think maybe, Kinski could have done a lot better. He could have pushed it to his side. We always talk about, goalkeepers' reactions, but I think the shot certainly should have been, at least he should have been under pressure of seeing someone try and press him. But I'm not picking him out for doing anything wrong particularly, but I feel Robertson was probably the closest player to him there. Anyway, the shot is poor from Kinski, the response. He drops it in the path of Janelt and it's an easy finish. But we just didn't react quick enough. Kinski could have done better. Bergvall shouldn't have lost the ball. And this is what we were saying before, is it's just a number of errors lead to these kind of things. You can't do that in the Premier League. You're going to get punished. And we were. It was just way too easy for Brentford, and definitely flogging a dead horse with it here, but they looked far sharper than us. And that's what happens. If you've got a sharper team, that person, Bergvall protects the ball in that position and doesn't lose it. so we don't get in that position. If you do, the shot taker gets closed down quicker. But if they do get the shot away, Kinski pushes it around the post. It's all those kind of things that, with a bit more match practice, you've got those kind of layers where someone doesn't make a mistake. But it felt like there were sort of multiple areas we could have done better. So I just saw that and thought, this is the thing that was most frustrating about it today, was that goal felt really demoralising at that point. Because it was a bit of a slow start. We weren't really linking up nicely. And then when you see players make very basic errors like that, when they know this is the first game of the season, let's really get off to a good start, you think you've just, look at what we did last year. Look at how poor we were last year. We really needed to put that behind us. So disappointing. But I do hope that, they manage Bergvall properly behind the scenes, and that people put their arm around him and say, don't worry about it. Come on, you're better than that. And next week, if you get game time, show everyone what you can do, because I think I've seen online already, he's taken a lot of flack for it, and the manager's mentioned it. So he probably will be feeling a bit rubbish this evening. But it started with him, but it wasn't all down to him in the end. There were several mistakes on the way for that goal going in.
Yeah, I've got to say, Luke, after Brentford went 2-0 up, the Spurs crowd were definitely quietened, and Brentford fans were having the time of their lives at the G-Tech this afternoon. Craig, let's come to you. At half-time, it was 2-0. Roberto De Zerbi made a double change at the break. What did you make of those changes? Fernandes and Bentancur coming on, Bergvall and Gallagher going off.
I think they were definitely needed, and we were a bit better in the second half. And I say the word a bit because it wasn't very much, but Fernandes, you can see the sort of player he's going to be. Bentancur, I thought, came on and controlled the midfield certainly a lot better than Bergvall did. I don't want to dig out Bergvall too much, like you say, but we did look a bit better. That's all you can say. It wasn't fantastic. We never really looked. I think the thing for me is we never really looked like threatening to get back into the game and produce a comeback, going on to win 3-2. At no point during that game did I think that at all. And I think as well, I haven't mentioned this yet, we haven't even seen that Roberto De Zerbi style of football. That was not a Roberto De Zerbi style of football game today in any way, shape or form.
Completely
That's the worrying thing. That's the worrying thing. And if you've got a squad for a reason, so there will be times when our first choice players are going to be missing this season. And if that's the second string, why aren't they playing like a Roberto De Zerbi team? Have they not managed to learn it yet? Has he not managed to get his points across yet? Could it be a mixture of both? Are the players not good enough? Possibly. But it was just so disjointed. That was not a Roberto De Zerbi performance today. And I think that will frustrate him as well.
Do you think we're aggressive enough, Craig, in some of these games? Because today, I know the Spurs away end, they moaned and complained about Michael Oliver and some of his decisions today. But some of them, I looked at it and thought, no, we actually need to be stronger. And it's funny because you and I were talking the other day about strikers like Harry Kane, Erling Haaland, Alan Shearer, strong, aggressive centre forwards. Someone like Richarlison, you guys have already mentioned it, spends a lot of time on the floor. You've got to be stronger in some situations. And I've just thought back to that moment when Jose Mourinho came in at Tottenham and said that, you lot need to be a bunch of whatever.
Yeah.
And said you need to be more aggressive. And I still feel like that with this Spurs side. We need to have, show more aggression in these games because we know that they're a real physical presence. You know what type of game you're going to get with this Brentford side.
Yeah, I agree. And I personally didn't have any problem with the referee today. I've got no real massive issues with any of his decisions, to be fair. I think that's generally only something a team that loses says anyway. You rarely hear a team that wins says it, so you got to look at that And we've
Fair
all
enough.
done it, of course we have. No, we've all done it. We've all done it. I've done it. But I try not to dig out officials as much as I can. But, sometimes they have shockers, don't they? But that's just the game. What it was I was interested. You did mention Lucas Bergvall. I know Luke touched on it. He did mention Lucas Bergvall a lot in his press conference, didn't he? And he was it him he was talking about saying, I'd have preferred not to play him in this game, a 21-year-old, or was he talking about Archie Gray? It could have been either, to be honest, whoever it was he was talking about. But was that, coming back to your point, Chris, that they're not physically adept enough, they're not developed enough to put in those crunching tackles? Because you're right, we've been weak, and there were times last season, unless Romero and Van der Ven were on the pitch, we looked weak in the tackle. And Richarlison, you mentioned him, he winds me up. I mean, there's a time and a place for Richarlison, but I'm kind of losing patience with the guy because, as you know, in that conversation, full well, Chris, my favourite ever player is Alan Shearer. Yeah. He was a proper tough centre forward. They don't seem to breed him like that anymore. And you'd never see Shearer diving. You'd never see Shearer ducking out of tackles, trying to, as soon as he's just brushed and he goes down. You've got to be stronger as a number 9. You've got to hold the ball up better. The ball just bounces off him. It's just not good enough. You need that. When we had Harry Kane up there, I know Kane was a phenomenon, but if you knew as a midfielder, if you passed the ball to Harry Kane, it was going to stick. You just don't get that. Solanke's a little bit better at it, but Richarlison just doesn't do it for me. And we need to be stronger all over the pitch, not just in tackles, not just winning headers. It's winning this, like Josh said, the duels, the second balls. We didn't win any of that today. None of it. And it's got to be better. You can't win football matches if you don't win your duels, you don't put the work in, and you don't win those second balls as well. We didn't win anything. Headers as well. That winds me up. How do we not win headers from either goal kicks if they go long or long punts up the pitch? That winds me up. People just falling over because they're touched. Be stronger. Get your elbows up so the other player can't jump. Be stronger. Come on. You see people in parks doing a better job than some of our players sometimes. It's got to be better. All over the pitch, it's got to be better.
Josh, I had to laugh, Craig, because when Solanke came on, he received the ball with his back to the defender and got bundled over and won a free kick immediately. And Richarlison had gone down about 12 times in the game and not got a single free kick. And there was at least one where he got fully clattered and he didn't get a free kick for it. But the second Solanke came on, he took a touch, got bundled over and won it. And what you were saying about Kane before as well is that some players have just got a knack for getting their body in the right position. So, I mean, it is a foul. Whereas Richarlison also, even if he's having a better game, he carries a reputation with him, unfortunately. And that definitely does him a disservice at times, because there was a point right on the edge of the box. He got fully clattered early on in the game and the referee just waved it on. So, yeah, I think he's got to be done at the club, hasn't he? He's got to be.
Thing is, look, you say about players who got reputations. If anybody's got, I've only ever seen it on TikTok, but there's an interview. I think it was just one. I think he's probably done a couple with Kevin Lynch. He was an old referee, and he's telling funny stories about things that have happened during the career and his refereeing career. And he mentions in those interviews that players have got reputations. He gets inside referees' head. They'll know, oh, right, he always goes down quite easily, so he ain't getting a foul. And he mentions many, many times where Ian Wright's being absolutely battered in the game, and because he's giving it trap back, he's just not giving the fouls. And it's a very, very funny story. I think Kevin could tell it much better than I ever could. But if you ever see it, go and listen to it. But it's right. Players have reputations. Richarlison's got a reputation of going down too easily. And I think a lot of the time, that's why he doesn't get the fouls. And probably, like you said, Luke, I know the exact occasion you're talking about. We should have had a foul, but he didn't get it.
Josh, let's come to you. Just a couple of minutes after De Zerbi made those 2 half-time subs, we found ourselves 3-0 down. What did you make of the third goal that we conceded?
Oh. Again, but it stinks of everything we've been saying, and Kinski's got to do better again. Kinski's performance today was very similar, I thought, to Rushworths for Coventry against Arsenal last night. It felt very, very similar. We know he's capable of so much better. He didn't palm the ball out of danger. In fact, it went straight to was it Coyote that put it in the end?
Yeah,
for the third.
Yeah.
And it was poor again. But look from that still. Look at how many players are stood there watching. How many players there are actually in the right position? How many players are actually there putting themselves on the line to get that ball away? None.
Well, Josh, can I stop you there? Because when we're talking about our defensive unit, I know it's the opening game of the season, and we're talking about 3 players in the defensive form making their debuts. But the whole point of signing Premier League experienced players is they know the league, they know the players, they know exactly what to expect.
Absolutely. I said this earlier, we've signed these players and we spent all this money to avoid exact situations like this and this defeat today from happening. But unfortunately, players were very switched off. And I thought both Van Hecke and Senesi had very, very poor games. I thought Senesi started to show a little bit more promise in the second half, but Van Hecke was dreadful today. And those are the moments where, again, we were talking earlier a little bit about leadership and about Archie Gray, and I was talking about how I'm very sceptical that he is part of that leadership group and given the armband on a day like today. If Mickey van der Ven's on the pitch, I think you're going to see a lot more organisation going on, a lot more verbals, and we wouldn't be seeing necessarily the situation from playing out. What I would say, though, look, we've spoken a bit about all these situations and individual errors that have been made here. And I'm going to link it to 2 things. One, a slight positive is, thankfully, these types of errors are the easiest to eradicate from your game. They are the easiest to fix on the training ground, the easiest to stop from happening. Of course, naturally in football, there's always going to be games where mistakes are made, but I think, I would be baffled if Spurs are going to play another game this season where every single goal is some form of defensive howler, as today was. But the other thing is, De Zerbi said, how much did De Zerbi in his press conference post-game talk about we need time to build a team, to build the team? He kept saying that, to build the team. And that is the basic, of course, open to interpretation. But the way that I interpreted that was this was about him kind of admitting, yeah, we have got a bunch of new people that we've just chucked in there. And he pointed to the fact that the entire back line was not the starting back line in the back end of last season, and certainly not his first choice back line as a 4. And they are going to take time to communicate with one another, get used to playing with one another. I think Kinski's got to show a bit more confidence and a bit more leadership as a goalkeeper there and command that back line a little bit better. This is why in places like Italy, for example, so often you see goalkeepers as captains, because it is ingrained in their game that they can see the whole pitch and they command what's going on in front of them. We weren't seeing any of that today. The communication seemed really poor. Of course, we're watching, from our screens and you, Chris, in the ground, but you could tell that level of communication, that level of trust, that level of understanding wasn't there. And I was talking to my dad before coming on, and we were talking about Van Hecke, and I said, Van Hecke, I thought, had a poor game, a really poor game, but also I kind of feel a little bit sorry for him. And this is a bit of a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy from our back line. But if you're JP there in that situation, are you going to trust Archie Gray at right back? Seriously, with how he was playing? Probably not. Are you going to trust Senesi next to you, who was playing really badly? Probably not. And then in front of you, you've got Sandro Tonali, who, yes, I think the ball could have gone to him a bit more, but when he did have the ball, was incredibly poor with it and wasteful with it. So no matter where you look, if you're a player like, and the same, I suppose, applies to Senesi, but for both centre-backs and the goalkeeper today, they were sort of 360 surrounded by poor performances, which isn't going to do your confidence any good. And that's where I think the goalkeeper needs to play a much bigger role. And the goalkeeper cannot be making such mistakes like he did for the second and the third goal, because that's killed us today. And yeah, of course, we could have lost by more today. But at the same time, I think all 3 goals that we conceded were incredibly preventable. And it wasn't Brentford brilliance that created those goals. It was actually, I think, more sort of tepid Tottenham that allowed those situations to happen, where Brentford, I thought, were brilliant, were in the transitions and off the ball and winning the ball back quickly. That's where they were superb. But all 3 of those goals were so preventable. And the third one, really killed off any chance, as slim as it may have been, to come back into the game. And even at half time, with such a poor first half performance, I still thought, okay, De Zerbi's going to absolutely tear them a new one in the dressing room. We're going to see a reaction in the second half, especially when the substitutions were made. And to concede that early, we conceded so early in the first half and so early in the second half. That is really, really worrying to me. And that's also something we've got to eradicate bigger picture, because if we cast our minds back to those dark days under Igor Tudor and Thomas Frank and even Ange Postecoglou at times, how often did we concede so early into the second half? How often did that happen? And the same things happened again. So that to me says there's a mentality issue and a concentration issue going on there, because how can you, before the game, not get yourself in the right frame of mind to start well and to be solid in that first 15? And how can the same thing happen when you've had that halftime break? Again, switched off straight away, not alert, not with it from the whistle. So that has got to change. And that, I suppose, to what you were saying, Chris, about that intensity, that aggressiveness, that was what was really missing. So, and I think that's what De Zerbi was alluding to when he was saying, my team, it's about first soul and second style of play. And that's where that soul, I think, comes into it. And the style of play will come second. And that style of play, to what De Zerbi said, will come when those players gel and when, they are all fit and ready to go.
Well, captain today, Archie Gray, talking to Sky Sports News, he has just stated we weren't up for the fight. Archie Gray says that there are no excuses after Tottenham's defeat against Brentford. And Roberto De Zerbi to Sky Sports said, I'm sorry for this defeat. Luke, before we talk a little bit about the Charlton game on Wednesday, talk us through the penalty in the 55th minute. Thiago, such a good player for Brentford last season, very nearly scored from the penalty spot, but this time he hit the post. Spurs fans actually left as soon as Michael Oliver pointed to the spot. A number of Spurs fans left the ground thinking it was going to be 4-0.
Yeah, I actually left the room for 2 seconds and came back in, and he was stepping up to take a penalty, and I was just like, this has really gone south. And I felt weirdly relieved when he missed. I don't know why. I just think 4-0 just feels like such a worse scoreline, doesn't it? Even though it's only one other goal.
Well, the Brentford fans, when it was 3-0, from then when he missed the penalty, all the way to the very end of the game, they were singing one more goal and we're top of the league. They were thinking that they were going to go top of the league tonight.
Yeah, and I heard they were also singing Thomas Frank is laughing at you. So it was. I'm really. It sounds. That is the sign of a really poor performance when you're glad a fourth goal doesn't go in, because it just feels a little bit like it crosses some sort of line of indignity. But I'm glad he missed. He almost took it a little bit too casually. And I don't think since Hugo Lloris, I haven't seen a Spurs keeper save a penalty. So I don't think that might even be true. I'm not even sure, but. So I thought, it'd be interesting to see how Kinski does here, but he didn't have to do anything in the end. But yeah, really glad he missed. Otherwise, that would have been really, really, really demoralising. And then I thought actually that we were bright for a few periods after that, actually. So sort of briefly forgot about it. But
actually, yeah, that's probably wrong of me to move on in that regard. Craig, let's come to you on this, because Luke's absolutely right. Because in that second half, we did create a number of opportunities. Like we said earlier, Mikey Moore had 3 of them. Andy Robertson putting crosses in. We had shots at the goalkeeper. Nothing, really to worry the goalkeeper at all. But we did create more in that second half. But as I mentioned also earlier, it took to 50 minutes before we had a shot on goal.
Yeah, and that first half performance, we all do it, don't we? You can't forget that first half performance. But yeah, you're right. As I think I said earlier, we were a little bit better in that second half. Almost like we needed to go 3-0 down and nearly 4 before we started playing. Mikey Moore, on another day, somebody else in those positions, we could have scored 3 goals. I mean, obviously it wouldn't have happened because the ball's in the back of the net. You start from a different position, so people who say, "Oh, it would have been 3-2 or 3-0 or whatever it would be," doesn't work like that, of course. But we looked better in the second half, but only slightly, in my opinion. There was not much to get the juices flowing, to be honest with you. As I say, Robertson put over a few good crosses, but we didn't deserve anything out of that game today based on that first half alone, to be honest with you. There was very little to get excited about, but yeah, I'll give you that. It was a little bit better second half.
Can I just jump in on that? Because what you point about Mikey Moore, and they were poor opportunities, that he missed. But I want to give him some credit, because he was, in my mind, the only attacking player that actually took up good positions in the final third. And although he didn't finish those chances and should have done much better, it was positive to see at least one attacking player picking up good positions in that final third. And if, the right player, and I'm not saying, Mikey Moore can't be that, but I think the performance today justified why he needs another loan. But someone like a Marmoush in that situation isn't going to miss those chances. So it was good to see him getting into those positions in the first place, because compare that to Richarlison, compare that to Solanke when he came on, and they certainly weren't picking up those positions. And Matisse Tell had a couple of good balls in, but again, he wasn't picking up the right positions either. So, as much as there were negatives, that was one slight bit of positivity about our attacking play, was at least at that point, he got himself into the right areas, and we had those chances when in the first half, it didn't look like we were going to have a shot all game.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Josh. Let me just ask the 3 of you, is there anything else you'd like to add whilst talking about this game, or can we now move on?
Please.
Yeah, I think move on. Although, can I just say this point from Jazz Jones is a very good point, actually. You can't even think of a player to put on the back of your shirt anymore. That's a valid point, because a few years ago, when my boys were a bit younger, they don't do it as much now. It was like, oh, what player should I have on? Should I have Bale? Should I have Son? Should I have Kane? And, Ericsson or whatever. And you had choices. Ali, what do kids have now?
We had this conversation. We had this conversation last year, Craig. I think now this new era under De Zerbi, I think we need to be a bit more positive now.
I'm just saying.
Well, I would say I was contemplating when I saw that the Marmoush deal was happening. I did go onto Amazon and look how much those Pharaoh hats cost. But I think after today's performance, I'll be refraining from purchasing one of them just yet.
I'll be selling those in the Spurs shop in no time.
Before we talk about the Charlton game, Craig, you've mentioned it, so I'll come to you on this first. So you go into the Spurs shop and you get your, you want to get your shirt printed. Who are you having on the back? Who is your choice?
Probably Van der Ven, actually, if I had to choose one.
Right. Josh?
Nobody, because I'm not 10 years old. Is my
I was
honest opinion. But if I was 10 years old, if I was 10, probably Porro.
There are a lot of people that still do it, Josh.
What would you get, Cowlin?
No, I'll get
Josh, yeah, but look at that. Out of a straw poll, we've chosen 2 defenders. How often would that happen in a team? Should be the strikers generally, isn't it? Attacking midfielders, that sort of thing.
Well,
I think
I'll tell you
when Mohamed Kudus comes back. When Mohamed Kudus comes back, he's going to be a very exciting player, and I think you will see a lot of those shirts. When Savinho signs, I think you'll see a lot of those shirts. Marmoush, I think if he signs, you'll see a lot of those shirts. So it tends to be a lot of the creative players and goal scorers as well. That's what we've seen in the past anyway. Luke, who would you?
Well, just so that people know that I'm not 10 years old, if the bald head and the beard didn't give it away, I actually go for Ledley King.
Okay. Yeah.
Another defender.
I know who Craig would get.
Emerson Royale.
He would get Callum Ugochukwu.
Timo Werner, I think. Craig, I tell you
Gary would have that.
You can be bloody miserable sometimes, Craig.
Not much to be happy about at the moment, is there? Let's be honest.
Fair enough. Right, let's move on to talk about the Carabao Cup, because, of course, this was the last domestic cup that we won back in 2008, beating Chelsea, and you've just mentioned Ledley King. He was our captain. Now, Charlton, we faced them in the second round of the Carabao Cup on Wednesday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Now, Charlton, so far in the Championship, have won 2 out of 2. They're sitting at second spot, 6 points out of 6, including a 2-1 win at the London Stadium today, beating West Ham 2-1 in front of an attendance, 62,264. Wow. Craig, how are you feeling about this game? This is the last question for you all, by the way. How are you feeling ahead of this game? What should Roberto De Zerbi do in terms of team selection? He's just come out and said that we're not ready for the start of the Premier League. So how on earth does he cope with this game? And then, of course, we face Newcastle at the weekend.
Actually, cope with the game. We're playing Charlton, not Manchester City. So I think Spurs fans would expect that whatever team he puts out, we're going to win. I think... Yeah, I know what you mean. I was being facetious, but ultimately we should be winning this game. Do you know what I mean? We should be looking to win this game. I would imagine he'll hopefully want to be getting players out there that didn't start today. I would imagine you might see Bentancur, Fernandes, Maddison starting the game. Solanke, I want to see. Does Porro come back in? Is Van der Ven fit? Dodgy. Would do you see even Brandon Austin get a run? I personally probably not. I'd stick with Kinski. Excuse me, but Kevin Danzo, does he come in? Does he make these wholesale changes? Do we need them? There's an argument to say, keep a few of the players in there, like your Tonali's, your Tells. Mikey Moore probably won't be. I would imagine he'll be going on loan now to Cologne. But we're kind of limited.
He did hint that we're going to take these cup competitions seriously because he said we're going to compete for all 3 competitions: Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Premier League. We've said on this channel for a long time now. We spoke about the lack of trophies. Of course, we won that Europa League last year under Ange, but a domestic cup that is way overdue as well.
Certainly is, and there's no excuse not to. Let's be honest with you. There's no excuse not to go for both of them. Go for the Carabao and the FA. Got to have a bit of luck along the way, of course you have. But Charlton at home, decent draw. A team we should be looking to beat. A team we should be looking to convincingly beat. As I say, West Ham fell to Charlton today, so Charlton are no mugs. But I just want to see a performance. I want to see a proper De Zerbi team performance on Wednesday evening. And let's hope we get it. Let's hope we get it and bang in some goals because they need to. It's just all about momentum as well, isn't it? All about momentum and going into Newcastle.
Score prediction, Craig?
3-0. Tottenham.
Okay. Josh, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, we need to go strong because I think we need to use it almost like as match practice for these players that haven't had the minutes. It's very, very clear that these players need more minutes to be able to get back into the swing of things and that match fitness that they're clearly lacking. So I would go full strength, actually, against Charlton, and I would be looking to start the likes of Solanke, Maddison, Fernandez, Tonali, Porro, and see what happens with Van de Ven. But if not, then the same back two, and Robertson, Udogie, either or. Kinski should be in goal, and then if Savinho is in, put him in straight away. He's had, by all accounts, a very good pre-season for Manchester City. So put him straight in. If Marmoush is fit and he's registered in time, put Marmoush straight in. I want to see us go in, play the strongest possible 11, go score some goals, and then start bringing players off. I hate this whole thing of, in cup games, you start a weaker side and then you bring on the big guns to save you. It should be the other way around. Go and kill the game off in the first half and then bring those players off. Because we've got to make a statement in these domestic cups. I sort of had a bit of a chuckle to myself when you said about De Zerbi wants to fight for all three competitions. Well, that's not how you're going to fight for the Premier League, that's for sure. But the domestic cup, it's a completely fresh competition, completely new leaf. The Brentford defeat has nothing to do with the Carabao Cup. So let's go and let's start that competition right and take it all the way to Wembley.
Score prediction, Josh?
I'm going to go with 2-0.
Okay, I'm going to go with 1-0 Tottenham. So we've got 1-0 from me, 2-0 Josh, 3-0 Craig. Luke, what are you thinking in terms of team selection and score prediction?
Yeah, I wonder if we'll just get this continued feeling and if we'll ever really be able to get out of this kind of rhythm of feeling sort of nervous about playing the perceived first 11 too often or giving them too many minutes. And I agree with Josh. I think you should go strong and then take the players off once you win. If you get yourself a healthy lead, an hour in, you can do a whole raft of substitutions and rest players. But I also think that if you remember, De Zerbi said when he came in, I can't really give them all my principles because it's too intense. They just need a little bit from me here and there. And James Maddison spoke about it in an interview the other day. Quite a few of the players have said it. He said, I'm not going to give you the full throttle De Zerbi game plan. Well, he's obviously doing that now. And those players need time to bed that in. And I agree with Josh. I think this is a great opportunity to put out a strong side and say, play the way I want you to play. And go out there and batter them. And that's what we want. But I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to continue to conserve energies and be careful with players because they've shown that that's what they're going to do with today's starting 11. If Fernandez can play almost 90 minutes the previous weekend, but not today, it shows that they're trying to be cautious. So I'm going to go a little bit more conservative and say 2-1. I think it's going to be a tighter game than we want it to be because I don't think they're going to start with a super strong team. But that's what I would really like to see. I would like to see them take it seriously and then make the substitutions once they feel comfortable.
Right, thank you so much. Luke, thank you so much for your time this evening. We look forward to seeing you back on the podcast in the very, very near future. Thanks so much for coming on. Where can people find you on social media?
Cheers, Chris. Thanks for having me. I'm at Hotspur Stats on Instagram and X.
Thank you so much, Luke. And Josh, thank you so much as always. What are you up to at the moment and where can people find you?
Pleasure. Loving life at TalkSport. Busy start to the season, busy end to the World Cup. It keeps on going. The sport is relentless. But we're so back. Football's back. It's brilliant. And on to better things for Spurs, I hope. People can find me at Josh Hughes TV on X.
And thank you to you as well, Grumpy. Where can people find you?
Demon9 on X if you want to give me a follow. Oh my God, it just wanted it to be a good start, didn't we? That's the overriding factor, and it was anything but. It was just the fact we didn't get the performance as well. It's so frustrating, but hopefully better days to come. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Craig, because we all know that this team is capable of a lot more than what we saw today, and Luke and some of you others have said about it's going to be a very different team in a couple of weeks' time. So watch this space. I expect big things, and I feel very optimistic about this season. Yes, we've lost 3-0 today, but we need to keep the faith with Roberto De Zerbi. Josh was talking about Spurs finishing the top 4 the other day. So, I think there's a lot to come from this side and Roberto De Zerbi. So stick with it, and I'm sure that there will be some happy days this season. But thank you, Craig. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Luke, for your time this evening. And thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. And we will see you on the next one. Have a good weekend. Come on, you Spurs.
We'll be right back.